Federico Faggin's theory of consciousness. Federico Faggin, a pioneer in silicon technology and neural networks, regarding his theory of consciousness, as discussed in a recent interview. Faggin argues that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality, not an emergent property of matter or the brain. Consciousness and free will are foundational, cannot be explained with anything simpler. He believes that the universe wants to understand itself. Faggin used to believe that consciousness comes from the physical brain because, as a scientist, he thought everything must come from matter. However, he later questioned this view. Faggin is saying that everything in reality is connected and cannot be truly separated into individual parts. Faggin argues that mainstream science tries to explain everything through physical matter and strict rules, but this approach is outdated. He believes quantum physics shows that reality is not purely material and cannot be fully controlled or predicted. Faggin's theory posits that consciousness exists within quantum fields. He explains that Faggin is saying that consciousness is not inside space and time like a physical object. Instead, space and time exist within consciousness. Think of it like this: your dreams happen inside your mind, not in physical space. Similarly, he believes reality happens inside a larger field of consciousness, not just within the physical world. Faggin is suggesting that quantum information is like a reflection of what we feel or experience inside our minds. It shows how we can make choices, basically how our free will works. It's like saying quantum physics helps explain how our thoughts and decisions come into play. Faggin is saying that meaning comes from our consciousness, not from physical information or data. The information in physics itself doesn't have meaning. Instead, meaning exists within us and the fields of consciousness. Faggin is saying that computer bits, zeros and ones, are not physical objects, but just symbols we've created to represent information. These symbols have no inherent meaning on their own, but as long as the system recognizes them as 0 and 1, that's all that's necessary for the system to work. Faggin is explaining that quantum information is unique and cannot be copied, while classical information like computer data can be easily copied and reproduced. In simple terms, quantum wave refers to the idea that particles, like electrons, don't have a definite position or state until we observe or measure them. Instead, they exist in a wave of possibilities, where they can be in many places or states at once. Quantum wave collapsing happens when we measure or observe these particles. Before observation, the particle exists in a wave of possibilities. When we measure it, the wave collapses into one specific state or position. Think of it like this: imagine a spinning coin. Before it lands, it's in a wave of possibilities, both heads and tails at the same time. Once you look at it, the wave collapses and the coin is either heads or tails. Faggin is saying that meaning comes from our consciousness and the quantum fields, not from the physical data or information itself. He believes that information in physics, like data or numbers, doesn't have meaning on its own. It's our minds that assign meaning to it. Faggin is saying that computer bits, zeros and ones, are not physical objects, but rather abstract concepts we created to represent information. We decide what 0 and 1 mean, and as long as the system can recognize and understand these symbols, that's all that's needed for the system to work. Quantum information is unique and can't be copied, while classical information, like the data on your computer, can be duplicated easily. In quantum physics, each piece of information is tied to the state of a particle, making it impossible to perfectly reproduce. When we measure something in quantum physics like a particle, it's not just a random process. Instead, the particle decides its state or position, much like how we make decisions with our free will. So, when the quantum wave collapses into one possibility, it's like the field, the environment of the particle, is making a choice just as we do. This means that Faggin's idea goes against the belief that everything in the universe happens because of fixed, predictable rules that's called determinism. Instead, he suggests that free will, the ability to make choices, are directly connected to the quantum level of reality, where things don't always follow strict rules and can involve some level of unpredictability. In simple terms, Faggin is saying there are two types of quantum fields. One type is like regular fields that follow physical laws but don't have awareness or the ability to make choices. The other type, called Seties, is special. It is aware, can make decisions, has free will, and wants to understand itself, kind of like how we want to understand the world around us. These Seties form the foundation of individual consciousness. It is trying to say that your consciousness is not tied to your physical body but exists as an independent experience. Just like when you control a drone and see the world from its perspective instead of your own, your awareness and sense of self are not just inside your body, they exist in your mind, which can feel separate from the physical form. In simple terms, you are not just your body, you are your consciousness. The body is an instrument through which consciousness experiences and interacts with the material world. Faggin believes that when the body dies, consciousness doesn't disappear. Instead, it transforms into a different state or form, continuing to exist in some way rather than ending completely. Faggin is critical of how artificial intelligence is developing, arguing that it represents the end of the materialist worldview. He thinks that AI's belief that machines will surpass humans is misguided, calling it crazy because it ignores the deeper conscious aspects of human experience. Faggin believes that his theory about consciousness can lead to new technological discoveries. For example, he suggests that trees might actually be conscious, and he believes that experiments could be done to show this, expanding our understanding of consciousness beyond humans and animals. Faggin describes a powerful personal experience where, one night, he felt an intense feeling of love and energy coming from his chest. It was unlike any love he had ever felt before. He realized that his consciousness wasn't just inside him, but also outside of him. This made him understand that he was both the one observing, his mind, and the thing being observed, the love and energy. It was a moment of deep realization about the connection between his consciousness and everything around him. Faggin wants to connect science with spirituality by combining our understanding of the physical world, science, with our inner experiences like consciousness, free will, and meaning. And meaning comes from our inner experiences, what we feel and understand from within ourselves, not from the external world. He believes that true understanding and reality are found inside us, not outside. In conclusion, Federico Faggin's theory says that consciousness is a fundamental part of the universe, coming from quantum fields and linked to free will. His ideas mix science and spirituality, suggesting new ways to understand both the world around us and our inner experiences.
For more information, like, share, and subscribe our Quote by YouTube channel.